We're gonna go old school today. So we learned this week greatest common factors. Okay, so you should be able to take any two numbers and find their greatest common factor. Right, so I can pick any two numbers, right? Maybe like 8 and 20. Sure, why not? Okay, so the factors of 8 are the numbers that multiply to make 8. So this is what I have my fancy little multiplication chart there for, is you can look that up. Start with 1. Start with 1. And if I look, 1 times 8 is 8. So I like to make my lists like this. And then I'm going to go and look through 2. 2 times 4 is 8. Okay. So there's my list for 8. Nothing else works, right? I can't multiply by 3. You can check, right? There's no 8 if you look in the 3s. I already have 4 times 2, and then nothing else works, right? Do the same thing for 20. What are the factors of 20? I can look at my chart, start with 1. 1 times 20, I know that one. Then you can check 2. 2 times 10. 3, you can check 3s. 3s, there does not work. 4s, 4 times 5. 4 times 5 works. 5 times 4, it's the same thing, just different order. 6, no, 7, 8, 9, and I already have 10. So those are my factors of 20. Okay, greatest means the largest matching factor. So I know these match. Which one of those is the greatest, the biggest, right? It's going to be 4. So 4 is my greatest common factor. So you might see this GCF, that means greatest common factor. Okay, now what do you do with the greatest common factor? You use it to simplify or reduce fractions. So now pretend these two numbers are in a fraction. 8 and 20. Pretend you have a fraction that's 8 over 20, or 8/20ths. Can you reduce that fraction? Yes, you can, because you know the greatest common factor, right? You take your greatest common factor and you divide by it. So divide by your greatest common factor. We already found out that the greatest common factor was 4. If I divide, what do I get? 8 divided by 4 is 2. 20 divided by 4 is 5. That is a reduced fraction, okay? So now what we're doing is we are reducing fractions. Well, you can't see that, can you? Now what we're doing is reducing fractions. Or simplifying fractions. Means the same thing, okay? What this also does is it tells me equivalent fractions. So did you know that these two fractions are equivalent? 8/20ths is the same thing as 2/5. And I know I have taught you equivalent fractions already. Like that. Okay. So if you know the greatest common factor, you can in fact reduce. And you can do that for any two numbers, right? You take those two numbers and you find the greatest common factor, and then you divide by that greatest common factor. That will give you a reduced equivalent fraction. Okay, so maybe you want to see one more, because you can do this with any two numbers in any fraction, okay? So let's try like maybe a more difficult one. What about 21 over what? 21 over 35. So what I need to do is I need to find the factors of 21 and 35. I need to find the greatest common factor of these two numbers right there. Okay, so what is the factors of 21? What are the factors of 21? 1 times 21. 2 doesn't work, right? You can use your multiplication chart. 3 works. 3 times 7. Does anything else work? 4, 5. Nope, you can check your chart. Nothing else works. What about the factors of 35? I know 1 times 35 makes 35. 2 does not work. 3 does not work. 4, 5 works. 5 times 7 is 35. And that's it. That's it for those, right? What is the greatest number that matches? So I see the 1 matches, and the 7. Which is the biggest? The 7. So the greatest common factor is 7, and you're going to divide by 7 to reduce this fraction. So after I divide by 7, 21 divided by 7, I will get 3. And I divide by 7 in the denominator as well. 35 divided by 7 gives me 5. So that is my reduced equivalent fraction, right? It means the same thing. These fractions mean the same thing. But this one's a lot nicer to look at. 3/5 is a lot easier to understand than 21/35. So when you reduce, you are just finding equivalent fractions.